So, the Star Guardians have been unleashed on all fronts, by which I mean in League of Legends, Wild Rift and Legends of Runeterra. And now you may be thinking, how am I going to complete all of this in time? And that, my dear friend, is what this video is all about. Today we are going to have a look at all the Star Guardian content that is and will be available throughout the event, and I will show you the fastest way to get through it in each game. But super quickly, before we get on it, just know that Riot has a website where they show you everything that is going on. It has everything from the dev posts, to the stories, to the cinematics. And it even teases the future content that will be released. And right now, it certainly seems like there will be a new cinematic every week. I'll keep a link to that site in the description. But now, without further ado, let's start with the event in League of Legends. When Star Guardians launched in League, we got hit with a fairly standard visual novel. However, before you decide to jump into it, if you are interested in the story you're about to experience, it might be a good idea to read the story that was released just before this. The massive story called Twin Stars will give you context for both League of Legends and Wild Rift. And if you are too lazy to read, we do have it in a video form as well. This also counts for the cinematic. Without the context of the big story, you may not even realize what is going on there. So again, I highly recommend going through that story. Anyway, when you open up your League client, you may jump into the main event hub by clicking the big button in the middle. Fun fact, canonically this event hub is called Starlight OS. Thankfully, the first time you arrive here, Kai'Sa's Familiar gives you a short tutorial on how to navigate this place. Not that you really need it. Basically, you can ignore everything that's in the bottom corner. All you need is near the top. Yes, it took me way too long to realize that this is actually a menu. It switches between the main story and the story of the individuals. Speaking of which, this is how the stories work. The main story is time-gated. A new chapter opens up every week. And every chapter has 3 parts in the form of a visual novel. The good news is that it is extremely easy to progress through the main story. After only 4 games, you unlock the entire first week. And also, you get some rewards for unlocking each part of the weekly story. The first week you get Blue Essence, an event icon and Eternals capsule. Week 2 gives you Blue Essence, Fiddlesticks Eternals and his icon and emote. Week 3 gives you Blue Essence, a Star Guardian orb and Morgana's icon. Week 4 gives you Blue Essence, Morgana's Eternals and her emote. And week 5 is the extra one at the end that simply gives you a bunch of Blue Essence. Not the most exciting reward for completing everything. But also remember, besides the epilogue, every week also gives you 75 tokens. Now, besides the main story, which is time-gated, there are also the stories of the individual Star Guardians. And these you can fully complete from the very beginning. Kind of. While you can level them up ahead of time, which is awesome, the stories of Quinn, Rel and Neela open up on the 28th. But again, you can level them up ahead of time, so it's not really an issue. In general, the stories of these individuals take a bit longer to level up. And this is due to 2 reasons. First of all, just like it was in the previous events, each Star Guardian is leveled up through their own repeating missions. For Kai'Sa, you need minion kills and champion damage. Akali needs champion kills and magic damage. For Echo, it is epic monsters and champion kills. Sona needs vision score and healing. Talia needs takedowns and killing jungle monsters. Quinn needs champion kills and physical damage. Rel needs vision score and CC score. And for Neela, it is minions and takedowns. And once again, even though Quinn, Rel and Neela are locked right now, you can see that their progression bar is increasing even if their stories are not available yet. So you won't feel like you'll have to catch up later on, which is really good. That did happen with Yone during Spirit Blossom. And thankfully, each of the champions only has 3 levels to go through. Which does mean that there will be actually less of the visual novel for them. And just like it was for the main story, each level of the Star Guardians also gives you rewards. The first level always gives you their icon, the second level always gives you their Eternals, and the third level always gives you their emotes. This is basically how things work. Each week you play about 4 or 5 games to unlock the main story, and throughout those 4 weeks you also level up the individual stories of the Star Guardians. And here is where you may remember people freaking out about the Star Guardian tokens. On PBE, people were really worried that they won't get enough tokens to get what they want. And for these people, I do have some good news, I think. Even though some people believe that you don't get tokens for simply playing games anymore, I can confirm that is not true. The reason why people think this is that after each game, it doesn't show you how many tokens you got anymore. And that's because, instead of the game giving you a set amount of tokens after each game, you now have to complete missions that essentially give you the same thing, but they function differently. So instead of getting something like 3 tokens per game, there is a repeating mission that gives you 10 tokens for every 3 games. And yes, that mission is there for free. Now, whether those 10 tokens will be enough for people to get what they want, I actually don't know. But I just wanna let people know it is there. On top of that, remember that each week you also get those 75 tokens for free from the main story. So that might be why the tokens from the games are a bit lower. It's because you get more tokens from the actual event. So in total, you are guaranteed at least 300 tokens, plus whatever you get from the repeating missions. So you are guaranteed at least one common item from the shop without paying anything. But then, if you get the pass, you get the 10 milestones, and also 4 weekly missions that give you 250 tokens each. Hopefully, with the event pass, you should be able to get the Prestige Echo in a reasonable time. But I wouldn't be surprised if Riot buffed it later on. Because by my early calculations, you should get about 2,500 tokens by the end of the event with the pass. Which still could be more. Now, when it comes to the story of the event itself, it is told through Kai'Sa's perspective. Unlike it was during Spirit Blossom and the Sentinels of Light, here you are not playing the role of a new character, you are playing the role of Kai'Sa. So far, I don't think it hinders the quality of the storytelling, even though you are forced into making decisions for Kai'Sa. On the other hand, unfortunately, the story may feel like it's all over the place. Because as far as I'm aware, none of the stories are connected. In the main story, everyone leaves and goes on a trip and they let Kai'Sa take care of their familiars. And then if you go into Akali's story, you may see that everyone is together again. So you really have to treat each story as its own separate bit. And yes, in case you are wondering, we still don't know how the cinematic is related to the story. At least as far as Kai'Sa's part goes. But I assume we will learn about it in the following weeks. And perhaps my final note on the story? This time around, it doesn't seem like you'll be dating anyone. Which kinda makes sense because you're playing as Kai'Sa. It would be weird if Kai'Sa suddenly started dating everyone at the same time. But who knows, maybe I'll be proven wrong in the upcoming weeks. But now comes the fun part, when it comes to the speed of the event. What I'm about to tell you is probably not gonna be that useful. As I said, it is very easy to progress through the main story, so unless you join in later on, you do not need to speedrun it. And you can play however you want. But if you click the info at the bottom of the screen, you get this list. This tells you what progresses the main story, as well as some bonuses to level up your guardians faster. When it comes to the Star Guardians, it is relatively simple. It is extra points if you play as the champion, and more points if you also play with their Star Guardian skins. But when it comes to the main story, you may notice something funny. For playing Summoner's Rift, you get 10 points if you lose and 15 points if you win. For playing ARAM, TFT or Ultimate Spellbook, you get 6 or 9 points. That's a little bit over half of Summoner's Rift. However, you may notice that losing in Summoner's Rift still gives you more points than winning in any of the other game modes. Which means, funnily enough, the fastest way to complete the main story is to play Summoner's Rift and surrender at 15. You can help this even more if you surrender as a full team of Star Guardians. Once again, I do not believe you have to do this. It is very easy to progress through the story naturally. But if you want to min-max, either you have to be confident that you win Summoner's Rift under 22 minutes, that's to match the value of the 15 points, or you simply surrender at 15. Just remember that if you do this, you are not going to level up your champions that fast. Unless you are going to be a Chad who's dominating the entire game and then surrenders. But that's it for the event in League of Legends. Compared to the other events, it is fairly easy to progress through, but the story seems to be a bit grounded, and if you don't like Ultimate Spellbook, then just don't play co-op versus AI, because it doesn't work no matter what people tell you. So now you may be thinking, yeah, there is a visual novel, it's a nice twist on the normal events, but it's kinda okay right now. To which I tell you, you're absolutely right. While the event in League is fine, if you only glimpse at what is happening in Wild Rift, if you compare the two, you may realize that League is in a wheelchair. So now, let's have a look at how Wild Rift is nailing the event. If you log into Wild Rift, you may notice that it is actually split into two events. There is the Star Guardians and the connected Redeemed. The Redeemed event is very simple. This is all about getting redeemed Star Guardian tokens. If you tap on the left side, you may see all the items you can get for the tokens. There is the standard emotes, bubbles, borders and so on. But here's the kicker. While in League you may get chromas for champions you don't even own, and then the Prestige Echo if you sign your soul. Here, just by playing the game, you have the option to get two new standalone skins, Redeemed Rakan and Xayah. If you tap on the right side, you may see how you get the tokens. There is a daily win mission for 10 tokens, and then you get 8 or 4 tokens for Summoner's Rift and 5 or 3 for ARAM. In Wild Rift, you also get 2 tokens for co-op versus AI. So even though co-op works in Wild Rift, I wouldn't really recommend it. However, unfortunately, you can see that the tokens have a limit of 1,500, which means that if you play for free without buying anything, from these missions you can only get enough tokens to get one of the skins. With that said, it is still a skin totally for free. And this is where the paid option comes in. You can also buy the Star Guardian Pass, which comes in with extra missions. The good news is, the missions from the pass give you 1900 tokens. So if you complete them, you can get the other skin too. Now, this was just the redeemed portion of the event. Now we go for the main course. As you may expect, just like it happened during the Sentinels of Light, Wild Rift also has its own visual novel. But the visual novel is only one part of the overall package. The moment you start the event, you get a mini cinematic with Rakan and Xayah. And then, you're thrown into the map. This is where you progress through the event. You can see that you start with a piece of visual novel. And then, even though it is only a budget version, there is PvE. Yes, all these spots with the crossed blades indicate a battle. And this is a full-on RPG-styled battle. So let's talk about how it works. Every time you get into a battle, to defeat the enemy, you have to strike them with your Guardian points. But you don't have to take them down in one go. If you don't defeat them, they will keep their damaged health the next time you come back. Now at the bottom, if you jump into the Familiar tab, you can see your team. Here, each Star Guardian has a familiar that helps you get Guardian points through different means. For example, Xayah starts with 10 Guardian points for every takedown. Senna gets 25 for every structure destroyed, and Seraphine gets 5 points for every 500 gold collected. So by playing games, you gain Guardian power, which you then use in the battles. Sounds cool, right? Well, it gets even better. Besides the Guardian points, you can also get Star Candies. You get 10 for Summoner's Rift and 7 for everything else. And you get the same amount no matter if you win or lose, which is really cool. And you then use the Star Candies to level up your familiars. This will upgrade their abilities and they will earn you points even faster. It really feels like an RPG system where you level up your team. Speaking of which, all of this gets even cooler. Did I mention the fact that you can swap your team around? That's right, you can choose which Guardians earn you power and fight the monsters. This really feels like a cool little RPG. And it is all done inside the Wild Rift client. If you compare this to League's simple play to progress, even though it is fundamentally the exact same thing, this just feels better. And it feels like you are actively involved in the event. But now you may be wondering, well, last time during the Sentinels of Light, Wild Rift had sort of a mini-story compared to the rest. Well, this time Wild Rift simply has a different story. And dare I say it, it may be better than League's too. You see, while League is focusing on Kai'Sa and how she's trying to follow Lux's steps, Wild Rift is focusing on Xayah getting together a new team, looking for Rakan and trying to save him. So the Wild Rift story explains what is happening in the cinematic, it is directly tied to the big story that came before the event, and did I mention that Wild Rift story also got 5 comics? Those are all really cool additions on top of that. With that said, I do believe that League will get more cinematics later on, so there they are even. But still, when it comes to the overall story, I believe Wild Rift pulled ahead too. But we'll see who's the winner by the end of the event. Finally, to give you some tips on the progression speed. Theoretically, if you want to progress through the main story faster, you want to play PvP Summoner's Rift until you can get Senna to level 3. Then you swap to co-op versus AI and focus on destroying turrets. At level 3, Senna will give you 40 points for every structure destroyed, but that level also upgrades it so you get additional 50 points if you help with destroying it. This is by far the easiest way to get Guardian points. However, there is a downside. Co-op versus AI is the worst way to get the redeemed tokens. So if you also care about the skins, just play PvP and split push. I don't think ARAM is gonna be worth it. But if you don't care about the skins, just get Senna to level 3 and then go for co-op versus AI. But that's all the things you need to know about Wild Rift. Now, lastly, let's mention Legends of Runeterra. While I would love it if Legends of Runeterra got its own game mode, I'm pretty sure it is just a standard event there. At least from what we know right now. The event comes out on the 20th, so it is not out just yet. But it was confirmed that there will be Star Guardian cosmetics, themed quests, and an event pass. So it doesn't look like there will be any Star Guardian Path of Champions or a lab or anything like that. Which is a shame because Path of Champions really feels like it would be awesome for it. So yeah, that's it for Legends of Runeterra 2. And that's it for this video. I hope it was useful, at least for some of you. I know that a lot of people skip the visual novels anyway, so at least I gave you some tips on how to get through it faster. With that said, remember that this event is split into weekly parts, so if you really think about it, PvE may still come.